that's not already on it. So any late items require unanimous approval to be added to the agenda. So if somebody rejects or doesn't want the late items on, it'll only take one person. And for the Lazo, the Lazo Greenway issue would be something I'd be looking to speak with Mayor Arnott about scheduling a special meeting, as the grant application needs to be in prior to October 1st.
Okay, and can you explain like to add a close? What does that mean?
So we're going to add the motion, or the recommendation will be to add a motion to go into closed at the end of the meeting. So in order to go into a closed meeting, it needs to be on the agenda, and you need to pass that motion. So that's all that's going to happen, is that section will be added.
Okay.
So you're not going to see these on your agendas because these are not on the agenda. These are late additions to the agenda.
Okay.
Where's the screen with one? Screen with the very first one. Oh, moral part. Oh, that was it.
Yeah.
So there's nothing here that you need to review? I don't believe so. So we're ready to rock and roll? Sure. I want everybody to be there.
Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we have the first item is introduction and approval of late items. So we need to get recommendations on 1 and 2 to, okay. Any questions on 1? All in favor? Okay, so that's moved. And then number 2. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we'll discuss those later. So now we'll have the adoption of the agenda.
Move.
Any comments? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Mayor Arnott, sorry to interrupt. Councillor Minion's just texted me. She's having a bit of issues, so she's just trying to log in through her Gmail or something. So she might be a bit delayed.
Okay. So we don't have any delegations. So the adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting from September 2nd. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, thank you. No.
Pat, can you hear me?
Oh, I can now. Yeah.
Okay. We were talking without the mics on, so sorry.
Okay. So we moved the regular council meetings for those for adoption. Okay, that's good. Public hearing meeting minutes from September the 2nd.
Move.
And all in favor? Okay, so the recommendation that the public hearing meetings be adopted.
Move.
And all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. And we have council committee meeting minutes and reports from the strategic planning committee meeting from September the 9th for.
Move receipt.
Okay, we have a move and second. All in favor? Okay. And now we are at committee recommendations as strategic priorities for adoption of September 16th.
Move.
Second.
Okay, any comments on that? All in favor? All right, that's carried. Thank you. And we now move to the consent agenda. And walk me through this one, CAO again.
Sorry, for the consent agenda. So everything will be moved for receipt with that first motion. And then from there, if council wants to pull any item out for discussion, you just make a motion that whichever item you wish would be moved for discussion. So if nobody wants to speak about anything, it would just be one motion. You'll accept everything and move on.
So I'll move the consent agenda items be approved.
Okay, any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to pull out the letters from Malone and Kemper for discussion.
Okay, so all in favor of the original motion? Carried. Okay, and so now we'll remove the letters from Malone and sorry, Councillor McKinnon.
It
That
was
was the
Kemper. Yeah.
Okay. So those two, so now we need to get unanimous approval of that?
Just a seconder and then a vote to move for discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so all in favor of that and for discussion? Okay, so Councillor McKenna, go ahead.
Yeah, I just probably I would like to ask staff for a report to just establish the options available for stratas in respect to recycle, garbage, and organics pickup. We are getting quite a few comments and or questions about garbage pickup, recycling, and the organics option. And it seems that different stratas have different options. And so that would be my question to staff as to, the possibility of providing strong direction so we could have one message go out to all stratas.
Okay, thanks, CAO, go ahead.
Thank you. So one of the issues is that not all the stratas are constructed in a way that allows the garbage trucks to go through. So some stratas have the kind of communal bins, and then some stratas have the curbside pickup. So we spoke with the regional district. Any strata that has access to curbside pickup is able to get organics pickup. The issue that's happened right now is that the organics trial program that's taking place is nearing its capacity, so they're not taking on any new customers. We have just approved correspondence to go up to date to the stratas explaining to them what's happening. When or if or when the organics facility is constructed and the town of Comox moves to this bi-weekly pickup and weekly organics, those stratas that have curbside pickup will have access to the organics program. So we're just in the process of informing those stratas. I would imagine by the end of the week, they should have that correspondence back.
And
Councillor, go ahead.
so,
Oh,
sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Oh.
Council.
Thank you. Is there a way that we can come up with something for those that don't have curbside pickup? Just to try and make sure that everybody is included? Is there any other option to include, make sure everyone's included?
Yeah, so I'll need to take a look into why the historical decision was made for some stratas not to have curbside pickup. It may be that those stratas chose not to do it. It may be that there's physical constraints on having the actual garbage trucks get in. So we would provide curbside pickup to any place that is able to get curbside pickup. The reason that some stratas don't would either be because of a decision for them not to want it or just physical limitations on the ability to provide the service.
And Councillor McKenna, then Councillor Swift.
Yeah, so there's a variety of stratas that probably don't have individual curbside pickup. I'm just wondering how we're going to get the communication to those stratas of what options are available to them.
Good.
So the stratas that are not on the town's curbside pickup program have their own relationship with Mterra. So we do help facilitate those conversations. We provide the ability for those stratas to purchase their own service from Mterra, but it's their own arrangements that are being made with the company. So if they wanted to increase service, decrease service, that's something that they would be working with Mterra directly.
Okay, Councillor Swift.
Well, I was just going to say the ones that don't have curbside often just have big bins, which they have their own recycling strategies within their own stratas, from my experience. So I guess they could add organics if they wanted to. Probably they won't though, I wouldn't think, no.
Oh, yeah. The stratas that are doing communal pickup will not qualify for organics. As far as I understand, will not qualify for organics pickup because of the risk of co-mingling and contamination is too high.
And maybe back to the CAO. So given that the article in today's paper that there was no tender for this organics, when do you really think this will be implemented? This has come back to council twice now. It's been chosen to move forward. People are quite anxious out there. I've told them it's probably going to be 6 months, maybe a year before this is implemented. Is that the correct statement?
It's likely going to be longer than that. We're telling people fall of 2022.
Okay, and Councillor McKenna, did you have another question? I thought I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's just, the comment was made that stratas currently who do not have garbage pickup probably won't qualify for organics program. So it would be a matter, and maybe just I'm just for clarity of my own, it would be a matter of that specific strata to say, we no longer want our direct relationship with Mterra or whoever the provider is. We would rather have the relationship with the town of Comox. And then once that relationship is reestablished with the town of Comox for curbside pickup, they could have the organics program when it rolls out.
So long as we're physically able to get in and do the pickup, I would say that yes, that is the case.
Okay, so seeing no more comments or hands up, all in favor of that?
I think Councillor Minions had a question, but.
Oh.
Can you hear me
Go ahead.
okay? I was having some audio.
Yeah,
go
we can
ahead.
hear you.
It was only around what your worship or not was talking about with the date. The date was fall 2022, so 2 years from now. And that's without the new tender going out for design, build, operate that they're working on. But Alex, Councillor Bissinger and I can give an update at the meeting time. But the date is 2 years out and the capacity was around 80 or 90%. So we definitely brought up stratas at the last meeting as something we wanted to see more of. And the capacity just isn't there, which was completely new news for us. So it's something we need to talk about with waste management and our expectation to change the garbage cycle. We thought there was more capacity in the pilot program than there is. So this 2 year plus wait is a bit of a thing that needs to be discussed. It's definitely farther than 6 months, a couple of years away.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further comments, questions? Okay, all in favor of that? That's carried, thanks. So we'll move on to number 7, unfinished business. For receipt of strategic planning action items from September 16th.
Move.
Second.
Okay, any comments on?
So I'm not sure if I'm in the right section because I don't have my tablet and I'm trying to use the old paper method, which is I'm finding cumbersome, but we did get a letter some time ago regarding patios and expanding patios. And there was some asks in that letter regarding temporary patios, creating an area where people could pick up people and allowing for some better ventilation or to allow for ventilation and stuff so they could keep these patios running. I wonder if have we done anything on that or is there an update on that piece? We really got ahead of this early when we did the patios and it would be nice to try and keep ahead of it again if we could.
We've had one application come in so far. We've had one One group, one business let us know that they're planning an application. We've been working with them. We've already issued a development permit area exemption to them at no charge to allow them to move forward. We've been working with the BIA on this, and we recently were informed after they did their consultation with the downtown businesses that there were two places left that were interested in looking at winterizing their patios. So we are going to be reaching out to them if we haven't already to set up meetings and start to have a conversation about what that will look like. So we're trying to be proactive about it, and we believe we've identified the businesses in town that are interested in it.
So there's nothing we need to do at this table. You guys, that can just be done by staff and we can just assume that's gonna happen?
For now, I would say that's a safe assumption. If it does get to the point where we need council support or your resolutions on something, we will bring it to you. And I will try and keep you updated on what happens with those winterization projects.
All right. Any further questions, comments on that? And so that would be A, all in favor of receipt? Okay, carried, thanks. And for B, the rezoning application RZ 18-6, DV development permit 18-4, and that's for 2310 Guthrie Road. And the recommendations are that Comox zoning amendment bylaw 1897 be given third reading.
I'll move that.
Second.
Any comments on that? All in favor? Carried, thanks. And
I'll move to.
Move third reading.
okay, and that is for the Comox Phase Development Agreement Authorization Bylaw 1898-2310 Guthrie Road for third reading. Any comments, questions on that? All in favor? Okay, that's great. Thank you. And moving along, nothing on special reports, no bylaws, new business, the 2019 annual report. That's the draft annual report.
I'll move adoption.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so comments, Councillor Swift, go ahead.
Just a small item under the dog park. I think it's just a typo. It said deferred to 2020 and it was actually deferred to 2021.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. And we have the bylaw dispute adjudication system. Recommendation number 1, that a bylaw dispute adjudication system be established in the town of Comox.
Move.
Questions? Councillor Swift?
Thanks. I think this is good. I'm just wondering about the adjudication process, and I think they were described as screeners. Is it somebody from the same municipality that is the screener for your bylaw, or is it somebody from another municipality that would be your screener?
So the screening officers are within the organization. There is another level of dispute above that where you go to the adjudicator, and that's where you're getting somebody outside of the organization. So what the screening officer would do would basically be to try and look at it and see if you can come to some sort of agreement, as oftentimes the people who are disputing it get fairly, it can be tough for them to deal with the person who issued them the ticket. So the screening officer is within the organization. The adjudicator, if the screening officer and the applicant can't come to an agreement, the adjudicator is the person who's outside the organization.
So I guess my issue is, I'm just wondering, it would be most likely that the screener would be supporting the bylaw, the issuance of the ticket. And so does that put the person that's disputing it in an awkward position? It feels like 2 against 1 then. Or is that just the way the process is? Sorry.
It is just the way the process is, but it wouldn't so much be a 2 against 1. it'd be a 1 against 1 and then a 1 against 1, and then you can go to the adjudicator. So that's kind of the line the process follows. So if you cannot come to an agreement with the screening officer, and it may be that the screening officer simply looks at the circumstances and facts of the case and say, I'm not willing to, there's no deal to be made here. You were clearly in violation, and it's a fairly reasonable thing to do. And so that's where the person has the ability to go to that unbiased adjudicator outside of the organization. So this is really just an easy, quick, cheap way to see if there's something that can be done to resolve it to start. And the adjudicator is easier, faster, and cheaper than the court process, which is under the MTI, the other system. But if you can avoid that and come to an agreement within the organization, it saves everybody time and money.
Councillor Grant.
So how many disputes would we have in a year, say? I mean, I'm assuming that if I'm watering my lawn on the wrong day, you come tell me, I'm gonna go, yeah, okay, you got me, or my dog's running around, you got me. How many times is it actually, and what kind of disputes are, like, is this neighbor against neighbor mad at each other kind of stuff, or what are we actually looking at here?
It can certainly be that. Bylaw is generally complaint driven, so we do get a large number of the complaints coming in neighbor to neighbor or neighbor within a neighborhood. So it could be those type of issues. You know, it could even be a parking issue where someone may come in and say, well, you know, if maybe the town of Comox moves to, you know, pretty strict enforcement, we just start to take it to everybody, and the person comes in and says, you know, I didn't know the rules. I normally don't park here. I'm really sorry. It would be an opportunity for the screening officer to say, okay, well, we can, you know, maybe we can come to a deal on this, or whatever it may be. As far as the number, you don't get a huge amount of them. It doesn't end up actually tying up too much of staff's time. You know, I haven't seen any statistics on whether or not the number of disputes decreases from the adjudication system to the MTI system. But even if it was to go up, the amount of preparation we have to go through to go to a screening officer and adjudicator versus the MTI system, where you're going into courts, so you're preparing affidavits. You know, preparing for one of those cases could take your bylaw officer an entire day, plus the amount of money you need to spend on the lawyers to prepare your affidavits and submit the information. So we do think that even if the number of disputes increases and could, even if it did increase substantially, which we don't believe it would still be a time and money saver for us. And the other benefit to this as well is we don't have to serve these tickets in person. We can send them in the mail, which is again, a time and money saver.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, Councillor Bissinger.
Yeah, thank you. I guess just a question, like, is this also to do with like work stop orders and like zoning bylaw type enforcements? Like if you know, just whatever example out there, is it like a way to argue that? I just don't want to open like a can of worms that way, where it's like, oh, well, the building inspector says this, and then go to someone else to get something else of an answer.
No, building inspection will still be handling their own items within the system that they have. And the other question was zoning bylaw infractions. There may be some things under the zoning bylaw that you could run through this adjudication process. But again, if the town was to look at the offense underneath the zoning bylaw and it got to the screening officer and it's egregious, then you just refuse to settle for something that's different than what you have on the ticket. And if they still disagree with that and they go to the adjudicator is not there to kind of make somebody who's broken the rules feel better. They're there to make sure that things are being done in a lawful and even-handed manner. So if they take a look at it and say, no, you obviously violated the zoning bylaw, here's what the penalty is, then they're just going to assign the penalty to the person.
Okay, seeing no further hands, all in favor of that? That's carried, thanks. So number 2.
Move to.
And that is the corporate services be directed to bring forward council policy outlining the town's responsibilities, etc. So any questions on that? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Number 3.
Move 3.
Okay, and that is that the following positions be appointed as screening officers. That's the CAO, Corporate Officer, Director of Development Services, Fire Chief, Bylaw Enforcement Officer. So any questions on that? Councillor McKenna.
I'm not sure. I know Councillor Grant asked the question, but I'm not sure, like, how much time could this be taking away from the core roles of these 5 to 7 positions?
Go ahead.
I do not anticipate it taking very much time away at all. I would say, you know, if all the screening officers together put in more than 10 hours of work into this in a year, I would be surprised. I think this is going to be fairly minimal. And on top of that, if these adjudications were going to the MTI through the courts, it would be tying up our time as well. It would probably be tying up more time. You know, I could just think of the amount of time myself I would have to put into looking through the affidavits and signing off on them and checking what's gone to the lawyers. So again, I think this will be a time saver for everybody.
Thank you.
Just to give you some perspective, I was a witness one time to a bylaw infraction, and it ended up going to court, and that took myself, our chief administration officer, and our bylaw officer to court for an entire day, and then the lady didn't show up. So that's just time completely wasted, right?
Good point. Thank you. Seeing no further questions, all in favor of that? Carried. Thank you. And the number 4, Comox bylaw notice enforcement number 1961/2020 be given first reading.
I'll move first reading unless I can move first, second, and third together. No, one at a time. Okay, move first.
Second.
I'll
Great.
second all.
Oh, sorry. Was that Councillor Bissinger for a question?
Oh, yeah, I was just saying I'll second all that. Yeah.
Okay. And any comments? All in favor? Carried.
Move second.
Okay, second's been moved. And that is the notice bylaw number 1961 for second reading.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, that's carried.
Move third reading.
Second.
Okay, and that's for third reading. Any questions on that? Councillor, oh, Nicole, you had a hand up? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried, thank you. And we're on to new policy. That's Community Center Visitor Code of Conduct, the proposed new policy for council adoption on Visitor Code of Conduct at the Community Center.
Move approval.
Second.
Any comments? The recommendation for that is to be, let's see, that the draft council policy is included in September 16th be approved. So comments on that? Councillor McKenna, then Nicole, go ahead.
So I just really applaud Ted in putting this policy forward. I think it's really just the way he thinks about his people, and I just think it's to be commended. So I really agree with this policy. Thank you.
Councillor Minions?
I just had a really quick question. I read through the policy and it's nice and succinct and right there, but I've only been into the rec center once since kind of COVID, and in that short time I did hear a couple people kind of making complaints about the system and things that are relatively smaller things. But I'm wondering, are there any like major issues with staff being overwhelmed with complaints or like getting abuse? I know in some retail settings, they were saying that people were taking out a lot on them. So is that kind of being managed, or and this is just to be in place, or do we have a bit of an issue with kind of staff taking on a lot of complaints from the public?
Yeah, this was kind of in motion prior to, or this was in motion prior to coming back from COVID. So this isn't a response to things that are being experienced down at the community center. We certainly do get complaints. Most of the more, you know, one of the ways we like to deal with them is we try not to leave our frontline staff to deal with the more seriously angry people. We will have a manager step in. So I think we've done a good job shielding people from that. And I don't think it has been actually that big of an issue for us beyond, you know, minor complaints and people being frustrated with the different systems. So we have had a couple of more more seriously angry people, but that would be dealt with either by Amy or Ted at the community center, and I've had them send people over to me as well. So we try and take those type of issues and have them dealt with by management rather than the frontline staff.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good if it's more minor stuff for sure.
Okay, seeing no further hands up, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And for D, that's planning report on REA 20-3. That's the Comox Grind Parklet Agreement renewal.
Move.
Second.
Okay. Any comments on that? Councillor Swift?
Thank you. I've had a concern about this particular parklet since it was put in, and I've asked a number of people a number of times, and I'm going to ask again. And my concern is around what I would like to see is a bigger buffer between the parking space and the first place where people sit, similar to what is up at Smitty's now. Because I'm really concerned every time I see a big truck in that parking space, if they weren't paying attention and went into drive instead of backing out, they would take out a person there. So it's just a safety measure. I'm happy with the parklet otherwise. I think it's a great popular spot to gather. I would just like a bigger buffer between that parking space and the first set of seats.
And I agree with that one. That was our first parklet. It was a good experiment, and now it looks like it's going to be a permanent fixture. So I agree that we could have a bigger barricade there, and also I know we talked about this last year, but have an annual cleaning of that, because when you sit there, it does look pretty grungy, and I believe the owner does move that, power washes the area to keep it clean. So other than that, I think it's a great addition to that area. So any other further comments on that? And all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And we're down to correspondence. And all right, so we have the one correspondence from Alan Hemingway. And do we move receipt of this CAO? Is this just like before? Okay, so move receipt, and then.
So I would move receipt and that we refer this to staff for recommendation.
Okay, we have a mover and seconder. So my comment is that we are doing a parking review in the town, so this would just fall into that. So any comments or questions from council?
So I'm comparing this one, and I'm not really sure about this, whether this is just at specific times that they need this or if they would want it all the time. But I know what we did at the Legion was we came up with a bit of a hybrid and said, you know, when you're having an event, go and block that parking lot spot off in front of the Legion. And perhaps something like that could be arranged on this as well.
Okay, very good, thanks. Seeing Councilor Bissinger, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I support your idea to defer to staff as we are doing a parking review, but I also just want to say I do support this. I don't know if we can explain that to staff to highly consider this, or as Councillor Grant is saying, do a hybrid with some certain times if that's what the church was looking for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And seeing no other hands up, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And we are now on late items. So this is the authorization of the grant application for Balmoral and Torrance Road.
Was that?
Okay, moved in second. Any comments? Councillor Swift?
I would just like some assurance that if we get this grant, this is an application for a grant, correct? Yeah, that we can delay it until such time as the sewer conveyance is determined.
If we're successful in the grant, we'll have to take a look at that. These grants do have timelines on when your projects need to finish. So we'll have to, like I said, if we are successful, we'll take a look at what's happening in in that and then marry it with the grant. We can always submit requests for extensions. The governments usually don't like to do that because if you have a grant, if you have an approved grant and you have to carry it over a year, it counts as a liability on their books. So they usually don't like to do it. But if you have a compelling reason, they will sometimes issue those types of extensions.
Seeing no further hands, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
There was a little bit of confusion between myself and Shelley, and we couldn't figure out who was right on what grant application support we needed. And we realized we have 2 grant application motions to support. So if council wouldn't mind, I'm just going to pull up. We needed a resolution of support for the Lazo Greenway project for the Canada Infrastructure Grant.
I'll move that.
Okay, moved in second. Any comments or questions from council?
Now, is that the one that goes down the, right down Lazo Road by the new subdivision and down towards the bird sanctuary? Is that the one? Okay.
Yeah, okay, the L-shaped one. Yeah. Okay, so seeing no further questions or comments, all in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. All right.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to ask at one point in time, we had this plan to go and we also had the regional district lined up to do a piece that they were doing. And we had it so it would go all the way down to Lazo and get us to the walkway on the waterfront. I'm wondering now, since that time, Al Fraser's not here, Doug's not there at the regional board, and we've got a new area B rep. So I'm not sure where we are with that, but it would be really nice to get that whole stretch straightened out at the same time, if that's possible. They didn't feel it was a lot of money to do the regional district piece of it, but it would be nice to get it all done so we don't just come to an end at some point there.
Yeah, because regional district did put in a new road with wider shoulders in that area too, I believe, just on the other side of Guthrie. So that would tie in nice. Okay. All right. All in favor of that? Carried. Thank you. So now we are moving on to reports from members of council. Councillor McGowan, how about you?
There we go, buttons. Jordan and RCAO and I met with Susan Torsdahl from the Stair Center and had a good conversation about our relationship and use of the building and how we can all support each other in the future. There was another as well at the Stair board meeting just this morning where the reopening recommendations were passed. So they're going to be working towards finishing up the plan, and hopefully we'll be getting that approved next week or so. And there's still a lot of work to do, but they're working very hard to be able to move forward with it. I attended a community drug strategy meeting, and yeah, I believe that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Swift, and then Grant.
Thank you. I attended, it's been a busy week this week. I attended the first Economic Liaison Committee meeting, which is a committee that's been established to work with CVEDs to look at ways of providing some integration between CVEDs and the CVRD. So we had our first meeting on Monday, and it was just the CVRD people. So we have a meeting coming up, I believe, October 1st. So it will include CVEDs so that we can actually have a conversation with them and see where that's going to go. Yesterday, attended a ministry meeting for sports. So we met with the Minister of Sports via telephone and just expressed our concern regarding, mental health and the need to get our rec center activities up and going in a safe way, and recognizing that revenues are down. And we are speaking on behalf of the regional district. There is a $1 million fund available if you know any sports teams that require a little help to keep their lights on and things going, but you have to apply, and I believe 1.5 million is for the province. So not a lot of money, but if you know somebody that or a group that is interested, that might be something they could look into. Attended the sewer meeting, and I believe Councillor Grant's going to report on that, and the water meeting and the sports meeting. And in the sports commission meeting, we were talking about there's been an ongoing project to create a dressing room for the hockey B team, and it's been a long project, but they finally have discovered they have some room within the footprint of the existing building where they're going to be able to create a dressing room. So it's going to be a nice collaboration with the hockey team to create a situation for them. There was a presentation, a delegation, the Ringettes, and of course they're wanting some more ice time and equitable ice time, and ice time is an ongoing problem for everybody. And aside from that, there's some potential to make some changes to the mezzanine to make it a more usable space, so that's kind of exciting. And other than that, it was the regional district meeting. And there's some UBCM resolutions talking about the prioritization of rural connectivity. So if you're going to be voting for those resolutions, we're really encouraging, or the directors were really encouraging support for those particular resolutions. And other than that, there's climate action community granting. A firm has been hired that's going to do some accounting on greenhouse gases. And the goal is to reduce the impact and accelerate the actions at the regional district level. And other than that, that's my report.
Thank you, Councillor Grant.
Thank you. So I attended the water meeting yesterday. The new water treatment plant is 50% complete. It's on time and on budget. You may have heard some rumors that the drill that they were drilling through the shoreline into the water broke, which it did. It was a bit of an interesting discussion because depending on why it broke, depends who's liable for the cost, which got to be pretty big because they had to drill a whole new borehole. Turns out it looks like it was a piece of faulty equipment. I was quite nervous that they had found a hidden old logging truck or something that somebody with Grant Brothers logging on the side of it. So it didn't. So we're good that way. And so that's good. I also had a meeting with BC Hydro, and I've got the agenda here if you're interested. It just really gives an update on the water plant and where we're going and some of the collaboration with BC Hydro. I'm trying to make sure that we continue to have that good collaboration as we go. It seems to be a pretty good partnership going right now. At sewer, we approved $150,000 so that we could continue to put some more crush over the line that's underneath the Lazo Bluffs. We're trying to eke it through till the end here. We've got about another year and a half to go. There are some areas where that's a little bit thin, so they're going to add to that, and so we approved $150,000 for that. Also, the open house for conveyancing of where the new line is going to go are scheduled. They're online now. The first one will go at the community center here in Comox on the 1st of October, and another one on the 7th. And there's a following one in Courtney. I forget what the date is. I think the 14th. So did that sports commission, which Maureen already talked about, and RD. Also went to the Mayor's Cup golf tournament. Pat, we missed you. We came in about 4th.
Oh,
we needed you. So, but they raised $25,000 at that. The money went to the Cumberland Museum Society, North Island College Foundation, Dawn to Dawn, L'Arche, and Child Development Association. So that's really good causes. And for something that they put together in about 3 weeks, it was pretty successful. So, and I also attended today a vulnerable populations meeting. Mayor Arnott was on that call too. They're looking to house another 50 people somewhere in the valley. And the discussion was really what's the best way to do that. They had a recommendation for the government. And is it hotel suites? Is it a campsite? Like, how do they do that? On top of that, I've had a call from the BIA and also from the mall where our issues are back again in the town of Comox, where they're getting 6 to 10 calls a day to the police from what's going on. Not sure that we can tie that back to the Port Augusta. So the mall is doing a little bit of its own investigation to try and figure out just exactly where this issue is coming from. Is it just 1 or 2 people that are continuing to do the same thing, or what have we really got going on here? So, and I'll be meeting with them next week. I think you're going to be at that meeting too, are you? Or did I just surprise you with a meeting?
No, I saw the invite go up a little while.
So we'll be keeping our eye on that.
Great, thanks. So regarding the $150,000 for crush to put down there, once the new line is put in, will they go and bring the beach back to its original state? Will they remove that crush? Because just wondering how it'll look.
I suppose it's open to some question, but probably by the time the line is decommissioned, there won't be much of that left. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
If I had and that was a meeting I missed yesterday. I have to admit, I totally forgot about it. Otherwise, I might have asked that question there. So, okay, thanks. Councillor Bissinger, how about you?
Sure, thank you. I attended the Cameron Construction condo project site tour yesterday, so thanks for the planning department for setting that up. Interesting fact, they had allocated 5 EV charging stations and they've had a demand for 28 in the whole building. So that's good news that people are converting to EV cars. Attended the solid waste management meeting with Nicole, and as we discussed and as you saw in the newspaper, so the composting facility is probably going to see a delay of 6 months. So we're looking at fall 2022 for operation, and they're just changing their bid approach. So they're just going with a design bid build versus a design build operate. So basically, hopefully that'll attract more local contractors and less complex of a I guess design and contractor required for that. And also the board voted in favor to look at reducing the requisition by $1 million. So those savings will likely get passed along to the taxpayers within the Comox Valley for the next tax year. So instead of keeping it at 6 million, we lower it to 5 million, considering COVID and all the other expenses that are going on in the valley. And maybe Councillor Minions can fill in more stuff if I missed anything there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And the Councillor Minions.
I had very similar notes to Councillor Bissinger. So did the Balmoral tour with Don Cameron yesterday, and I noted the EV charging as well, and just some of the kind of cool things that they were adding to that building there. It's pretty state of the art for Comox. So it was really cool to see where our future buildings might be going, and kind of learning about a lot of the local clientele that are choosing to relocate there and retire there. So that was a really neat tour, and learning about some of the specific items he added to that project. So it was nice to see, and it looks like that'll be coming along. Waste management, very similar. The only thing that really was new information, and it was quite a surprise at the meeting, was that our pilot project, which we still don't know the exact number that Comox is participating at, but I believe it's around 10, might be 10 to 15% now as more people are coming on. In past, I had thought they had said the pilot was pretty open for participation, and I had written down 22,000 of 25,000 tons, which is at 90% capacity. So even to be promoting composting and to be trying to get new homes on there, it was a bit of a disappointment. So something we'll have to relook at with the whole waste management for the next 2 to 2.5 years while we're waiting for the compost facility. It was a bit of a surprise that we were not aware of, that we thought we were, I think, aware of. So Other than that, just the requisition, it was a pretty 50-50 vote from the board. So it was interesting to see whether we keep tax requisitions the same amount or we consider COVID and give a temporary relief, because the requisition very well may have to go back to the 6 million within a year or two. And then just with the plastics decision on the weekend, with the provincial government saying municipalities with the government, the provincial government's okay, we'll be able to look at single-use plastics again. That created some phone calls and conversations and just kind of future planning of what that could look like, either for a municipality or provincially, and hopefully in correspondence with Courtney. So just a couple phone calls on that. And that was just it. And there's quite a few meetings happening again with library, hospital board. So it's kind of nice to see all the meetings up and running on Zoom again. It means things are moving along.
Okay, thanks. And last but not least, Councilor McKenna.
Yeah, so I had a couple of conversations with some strata presidents this week, just talking through organics and recycling and garbage pickup. I also did the tour through Cameron Contracting's building on 1700 Balmoral, and man, it was a very exciting tour. It was a very state-of-the-art facility, and if you're, you know, I will say lucky enough to be an owner in that building, I think you're really going to enjoy it. And just the quality of the construction was quite evident. And it was remarkable that, you know, I wanted to pass along congratulations to our planning department, because Don Cameron, the proprietor of the company, just stood there for 10 minutes to extol the virtues of our planning department. And I think it'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, you know, that, because to Marvin and his team, they just couldn't have been more complimentary about how they solved problems for them as they worked through the process. And so I just wanted to extend that along. And then tomorrow I'm attending a community justice center meeting, and that should be an interesting one as well.
Great, thanks. And for myself, I had attended a BIA meeting last night with Councillor Grant, the vulnerable community meeting today. And yesterday it was with the CAO and our Director of Operations. We had a conference call with Minister Claire Trevena, hoping to get some grant money for the sidewalk multi-use path on Bolt Aspen area. And we'll see how that turns out. So that is all I have to report. And do we have any public questions? Have there been any submitted? No public questions. So now we'll move to exclude the public and go in camera.
Vote.
Second.
And all in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll be back in a moment with you folks.